Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on responsive supply chain with RAIN RFID. My name is Mariah Sandoval, and I'm the marketing coordinator at Barcodes. Product manufacturers and distributors are investing in IT infrastructure to keep up with competitors and mandates for smart supply chains. It is not surprising then that RAIN RFID is quickly rising to the top of the list of technologies that drive supply chain efficiencies. RAIN RFID is a wireless technology that connects items, boxes, and pallets to the internet, enabling businesses to identify, locate, and authenticate each item. It's one of the technologies that enables the Internet of Things and is used in a wide variety of applications, including inventory management, asset tracking, and item authentication. Today, we are joined by Sandy Mukherjee from Tagit and Todd Farley from Impinj to discuss how RAIN RFID technology is changing the landscape of the connected supply chain. We do have a Q&A feature available on this webinar, so please feel free to send us any questions and we will address them towards the end as time allows. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Sandy and Todd.
Thank you, Mariah.
Thank you, Mariah. So this is Todd speaking with Impinj. I figured, one, thank you for joining. Really appreciate you taking your time. Before we got going, just really quickly wanted to introduce the three participants, Impinj, Tagit, and Barcodes, just so everyone had a frame of reference of who we are. So from an Impinj standpoint, Impinj, what Impinj does is gives a digital life to everyday items. We'll spend a little bit more time talking about that throughout this discussion here, but really it's the way to collect data and do it in a more automated fashion. And so really what Impinj is focused on is giving a digital life, and we do that through RAIN RFID, or ultra high frequency passive RFID. Tagit, Sandy is on the line from Tagit, and Tagit, really their focus is on the software side. So it's taking data that's generated, making that data usable, actionable, and enabling you to drive value out of that, as well as connecting into other systems and applications that you may have. So it's really I'll call it the intelligence of taking information and making it actionable and usable. And then Barcodes is really the player that pulls it all together and pulls it together into a solution to design, to deploy, and to make sure that as a client, you have everything you need in order to be successful in whatever business objective you've outlined. So really, if you think about it, those are the three folks that are on the line today. And again, really looking forward to just walking you through how we're seeing technology being used in the supply chain to solve business challenges. What we wanted to start with is just talk about some of the common challenges that we consistently hear from companies of what they're dealing with and struggling with within the supply chain. And so if I just maybe just paint a quick picture, consistently what we hear from folks is, I want to be able to track things. I want to have traceability. And that could be individual items, that could be pallets, that could be items down a manufacturing line, a returnable item, but the common denominator is, I want to know where something is, I want to know what's in it, and I want to know when it's leaving. And that's, again, manufacturing, warehouses, distribution centers, really starts with that traceability. I need that traceability. I can't tell you how many customers we talk to that says, hey, I wish I just had that magic easy button where I could press and I just knew where everything was. The second thing that we hear consistently from clients is, I want traceability, but then I also want to make sure that it's highly accurate. Because if things aren't accurate, one, that's really painful, because I can have missed shipments to clients. Or if it's not accurate, I can have my employees searching an entire warehouse looking for an item because the system says it's in aisle XYZ, bin number 123, and I go there and it's not located there. And so now we have to go search and go and do things. So accuracy becomes really key, is that I need to know where it is, but I need to know where it is in a correct manner. Then the last thing that we consistently hear is this efficiency. Countless customers, and I would imagine many of you are dealing with this, where we're in a very tight labor market. Wages continue to creep up. The unemployment rates are at very, very low rates. And as a result of that, it's a very competitive workforce. It's hard to get people. Once you get them, it's hard to retain them, and you got to make sure they're as efficient as possible. And you got to make sure your operation is efficient as possible, because you've got to ensure that you can increase your throughput. You've got to manage down. And so when we think about it, I would imagine that many of you are probably dealing with either all or some of those challenges. And what we tend to find is that it starts with traceability. And then what most people do is they say, okay, I'm going to start tracking things, and I need to track things accurately. So they implement processes to be able to track things and to be able to do that in an accurate manner. What we generally find, though, is that in doing that in today's landscape, you take significant efficiency hits, right? Because you're tracking things, you may be tracking things, and you're doing it in the most accurate way as possible, but you've started to create redundant processes. You are handling things multiple times. You have extra steps that have been added into your value stream map in order to ensure that you can track things and you can track them accurately. But what it does is it really has that negative impact on your overall efficiency and in the time that it takes to actually get processes done. So as we think about going through this, you'll see us continually come back to the thought process of traceability, of accuracy and efficiency, and how really as we think about introducing technology into the supply chain and trying to automate things, it's really at the focal point of trying to address those three things: to track things consistently, to do it very accurately, and to drive increased throughput and overall productivity of your processes and in turn your workforce.
So to continue on what Chad was talking about and explaining it in traditional supply chain systems, today's supply chain systems rely mainly on barcode scans for tracking all their parts, jobs, pallets, containers, all these items, finished goods, returnable items, everything, as these items travel through various stages of the supply chain. Manual scans are not only inaccurate, but also extremely labor intensive. This slide shows a typical report from a manufacturing execution system, where you get the last known location with a timestamp on an item in the supply chain. But the system cannot provide insights and analytics in real time. Such systems are designed to provide insights and analytics only based on historical data or events that have happened in the past, or some kind of statistical modeling of historical data. It depends on the production or the logistics manager to look into these reports, to scour through the data points, to figure out why, where, and how did an exception happen. So the current systems heavily depend on human beings for capturing and interpreting the data. And the accuracy of these reports is directly proportional to the cost of labor. Now imagine you have a system where you can define the various stages, the optimal routes, the travel time between stages, the dwell time of these items at each and every stage for different product families, and the system monitors all these movement violations, delays, errors, compliance violations, all in real time. A system that can trigger alerts and notifications about all these violations as they are happening or about to happen without human intervention. A system that enables you to respond to real-life situations in real time. We all know that cost of labor was one of the key reasons why US manufacturing jobs went overseas. Today, we can transform our supply chain to responsive supply chain and bring a lot of these jobs back to our country with RAIN RFID, and achieve the highest level of accuracy and efficiency at an optimal labor cost.
So thanks, Sandy. As Sandy was mentioning, most people today, I want to imagine many on the phone today, the way you're tracking items is via barcode scans. And that barcode scan, it's a one-to-one relationship, which means that I have a scanner and I'm scanning one barcode at a time. And it's in general, it's triggered by an individual. And Sandy hit on that, where it's a very manual, labor-intensive process because I, as a worker, I'm scanning. Now, some may have automation and you have conveyors and you may have scanners on your conveyor line. But even in those environments, it's still a one-to-one, and it's a trigger-based system. When we think about how do we get to that spot where you can have this responsive supply chain, part of that stems from you have to then start having technology, underlying technology that allows you to start automating some of these processes to get that data to naturally flow into those systems to deliver that responsive supply chain. And that's really where RAIN RFID comes into play. And before I go any further, I just wanted to define what RAIN RFID is, because I would imagine that could be a newer term for some folks. What RAIN RFID is it is a passive technology, and it's ultra high frequency RFID. It's essentially putting I call it a grain of sand. It's a semiconductor that's about the size of a grain of sand, which has a digital identity. That digital identity goes onto a box, a carton, it goes onto a pallet, it goes onto a container, and it gives that item a unique digital identity. That digital identity is only transmitted when it comes into proximity of a reader or a interrogator layer. The read range for ultra high frequency RFID or RAIN RFID is feet to up to about 12 meters. So you can start thinking about how you can start automating processes by being able to read many items very quick. The other benefit of RAIN RFID is the fact that you can read many items at once. And so you can read thousands of items per second leveraging the technology. That is at a high level what the technology is. If we then think about, well, how do you use it? One thing I want to be really clear on as we talk through this is we view RAIN RFID as a complementary technology to the barcode. Today, we're not suggesting that it's a replacement of the barcode. It's a complement to the barcode. And where it complements, or why it complements, is there are certain processes within the supply chain that we consistently see have certain choke points or have certain problem statements that the technology can really help unclog. And so when we think about RAIN RFID today, or we think about ultra high frequency passive RFID, the ways that most folks are getting tremendous value at it are in automating shipment workflows. So when you think about the inbound and the outbound of goods, receiving goods and shipping out goods, I want to make sure that it's accurate. I want to make sure that it's efficient. I want to make sure that the right things go to the right places, and I want to do it as fast as possible. But I can't have mistakes. We see the technology being used in audit and compliance. I need to know where something is, right? I'm tracking materials. I need to know where an item is. I have tools that I need to use within my manufacturing process, and I only have a certain amount of those, and I need to make sure that they're in the right spots at the right time so I don't have an impact on my manufacturing line. And then the last piece is from an inventory management. Understanding where items are, what's available. And so when we think about the technology as a whole, really focused on being able to complement the barcode and specifically focus in on certain areas within the supply chain to bring tremendous value. And we'll talk a little bit more about some real world examples, but just high level, it's really focused in on those three areas of where it brings tremendous value into the supply chain. if we spend just a little bit, what we'll do is spend a little bit of time just giving some real world context of each one of those three buckets that we just hit on. And so the first one we'll start with is the automation of shipment workflows. I'll start with just giving a customer example, because I think that's the most powerful situation. A very large client, many distribution facilities, many dock doors at those distribution facilities. They actually had a very good traceability or tracking system in place, and their accuracy was very good. The problem they were having is their business continued to scale, and they had more and more goods that they needed to move, but they have a tight operational budget, and they had limited space. And so now the challenge they were trying to figure out was, how do we do more throughput through our current facilities? And so their current outbound process was, as a forklift driver, I would pick up a pallet of goods. I would have to pinwheel that pallet so the barcode label would face me, and then they were doing a scan to load process. And they were doing this to ensure they were very accurate and making sure they're loading the right pallet onto the right trailer so it would go to the right location or the right customer. And so as a operator, I would pick up that pallet, I would have to pinwheel it so that barcode label was facing me. I would then scan that barcode, and then I would go to the door that I was going to load it in, and I would scan the door. And then systematically, the system would give them an indicator that says correct, right? And it was one beep was correct and two beeps was incorrect. And so if I scanned the pallet, scanned the door, got the single beep, I could load it in. And that was the process they were doing. And what they found is they could only do so much output or throughput in that time. By introducing RFID to that process, what they were able to do is put readers, and you can see a picture here where every door has RFID readers on them. They were able to put readers on every door. The pallet, the license plate on the pallet had a RFID chip, that grain of sand that I referenced earlier. In addition to the barcode still existed, was still there. But now, instead of that user having to go pick up the pallet and pinwheel it so the barcode faced them, they could just go pick up that pallet any way they wanted and just go load it right into the trailer. And then systematically, as the pallet went through the readers, those readers are reading the pallet. It knows exactly what pallet that is. Systematically, it would give them the one beep if it was correct, or the two beeps if it was incorrect, and they would go. So what it did is it saved them significant amount of time, because now the operator doesn't have to pinwheel and position that pallet in a certain manner, and they were able to just load it right away. And they were able to drive 25% more throughput with the same workforce by implementing this technology specifically at the dock door. And so when we think about why is this beneficial and why does this matter, it's that type of efficiency gains while maintaining the accuracy and while giving that traceability or that trackability was very, very important. So when we think about that, that's a real key play where we are seeing many customers getting value out of this type of solution. And again, I used an outbound example, but the same would hold on an inbound example where folks are getting similar values on the receiving end as well as the outbound end.
So this slide shows you pictures from a real life implementation. There's a semiconductor equipment manufacturer, and they have carts in which they carry parts from the kitting area to the assembly line. Each cart is associated with the work order on their backend system, and each cart carries roughly about around 150 to 400 parts that are required for completing that specific work order. This customer has roughly about 2 million parts flowing through the system annually. So they used to have two teams of 15 technicians working in two different shifts for scanning all the parts on the carts and making sure that the right parts in the right quantity are on the carts. we deployed 4 RAIN RFID tunnels and added RFID labels to the parts. The technicians now push the cards through the tunnels. The tunnels associate the cards with the correct work order number on their backend system, and the tunnels audit all these parts on the cards in matter of seconds. The audit results are then displayed on the monitors. If the audit fails, there's a handheld RFID reader, which basically helps those techs find the missing part or the extra part on the card quickly. With RAIN RFID, the customer's annual spend went down from $1.8 million per year to $600,000 per year for just scanning. The same auditing, material audit, and compliance use cases are available for work in progress in manufacturing, for route monitoring, well monitoring, for shipping, receiving that Todd was mentioning about compliance management, doing a closed box audit. So what RAIN RFID does is provides that extra benefit that earlier was not possible because barcode inventory needs a line of sight. You have to look, see, find each item, scan them. In RAIN RFID, you don't have to. This is a use case. This is actually a use case that we initially did a pilot with our tag partner Xerify, and now they are going into a production mode. The customer used to have a problem with the field technicians taking their tools for repair and maintenance operations in the flights and then forgetting the tools over there. So this is basically an airlines maintenance company. They have roughly 1,200 technicians and 72,000 tools. Customer was constantly losing the tools, and what was worse is that they were probably leaving these tools back in the airplanes, which created safety hazard. Now with RAIN RFID tags from Xerify attached to these tools, the technicians are able to use self-checkout stations for automatically checking in and checking out tools, and then identifying the tools that are out of preventive maintenance right on spot. So it's not just rapid check-in, check-out, it's also making sure that they are carrying the right tools along with them for doing the maintenance job. When they are done with the maintenance job, they perform a spot audit to make sure that they have not left any tool behind. They collected each and every tool that they brought with them, and that thereby eliminating all the potential safety hazards.
So if we think about, Sandy and I we just ran through some really quick examples of how you can leverage the technology and where folks are doing it. And what we wanted to do is just talk about some of the results. And so just if I really quickly just go through this, we talked about, or as I went through the outbound shipping, I really talked about this large customer, and it's this Fortune 500 wholesaler. And they were able to increase their throughput of what a single loader could do by up to 25%. Now you start thinking about what does that actually mean to your business, and how many more pallets per day can be loaded onto a trailer if you can do 25% more. That has very, very material impact on the overall benefit of the facility. And you layer that on in a tight labor market, wages going up, and what kind of impact that can have. That's a tremendous value and a tremendous value add that they were able to achieve. If I go over to the far right-hand side and you think about this automobile manufacturer, a little bit different than the grocery wholesaler. The grocery wholesaler was more in a distribution style environment. The automobile manufacturer is obviously in a manufacturing environment, so it's really the work in progress. And they implemented a solution leveraging RAIN RFID, and were able to increase accuracy while at the same time increasing productivity by roughly 15%. And again, I think the key thing within all of this is not only were these clients able to achieve value They were able to solve very point problems that had meaningful impacts on the bottom line to their business, and they were able to do it in a very timely manner. The majority of these use cases, they were able to drive positive ROIs within 4 to 8 months. So you start thinking about what sort of value you can drive with technology, it can happen really quickly. The thing that I would highlight is you have to be very smart about choosing where the technology fits. As I mentioned earlier, it's complementary to the barcode. It's not aimed to be a replacement of the barcode. And so the customers that are highly successful are those customers that really identify a point problem, and we're suggesting kind of where the majority of clients are getting the most value with the 3 point problems that we've highlighted. But that's where folks that drive the most value get the types of gains we're talking about and achieve ROIs in the aggressive timeline that we're finding. So if we think about what's next, if I was going to just say, what are some of the actions that we would recommend coming out of this? The first thing that I would say is kind of where I finished on the last piece, but it's really identify areas that you could potentially drive value leveraging a technology like this. It's the one thing we want to be really clear on. It's not the magic easy button, right? It's not that where you can just say, I'm going to put a tag on everything and I'm going to press this button. I'm going to light up the whole facility and they'll tell me exactly where everything is. The key thing, number one, is to really focus on key problem statements. And we would suggest those 3 that we just highlighted being the most prominent ones, and then leveraging it there. Once you identify that, the barriers to getting started are very low. It's not expensive to get started. It's highly repeatable. Once you identify that problem, identify the workspace, it's highly repeatable and highly scalable. There's a very quick return on investment. And then the other piece that we're finding and that clients are telling us is it's not only the value they're getting in solving the point problem that they have, where if I use that shipping example of the large grocery retailer or wholesaler, they had a 25% increase in how much they could load. Tremendous benefit. They were very pleased with that. But in addition to that, now that you're gathering data in a systematic way, the other thing that enables them to do is to start modeling and start doing what-if scenarios. What if we changed our process flow to look like this? What would happen? Because now I've collected a tremendous amount of data that I can now use to start understanding and putting behind maybe a Kaizen event. And instead of it being just everyone kind of debating opinions or thoughts, you now have data where you can model. And this concept of this digital twin to be able to model what's happening within current processes. So again, one of the things we're really finding is tremendous value on solving problems as well as modeling in the future.
So just continue with Todd's thoughts there. Where do you start? How do you start? Some of the myths about RFID, and since Walmart mandate happened in 2005, are that RFID is expensive, it's complicated, it has long implementation cycles. However, the facts, like Todd was mentioning, are quite different today. The hardware platforms and the software algorithms have significantly evolved and are now delivering positive ROI on the returns on investments within 3 to 6, 4 to 8 months. So we created these following bundles. These bundles are available through Barcodes to help you understand the possibilities and the nuances of the RFID, RAIN RFID technology, the best solution approach for your business processes, and then estimate the returns on investment specifically for your company. Most of our customers, I think Todd was mentioning earlier, most of our customers have been successful because they started with a specific problem, did a small pilot, and planned for their enterprise-wide scale out in phases. This is our final slide. And the takeaway from this slide is that on the left-hand side of the slide, you see all the physical items. And on the right-hand side of the slide, there are all the different business applications where the digital twins of these physical items reside. But capturing and interpreting the identity of these physical things, the location information of these physical things, specifically for the digital systems, is a very manual, labor-intensive, and human error-prone process, resulting in not only financial losses, but at times it creates branding issues. With RAIN RFID, each physical item or a collection of items gets a unique digital identity in form of an endpoint. Impinge's devices automatically capture these digital identities, process them, and expose them as raw events. Target software and algorithms based on the pattern in which these raw events are generated, extract the business data, and trigger accurate responses to real-life situations in real time before publishing the business data into the right business application in the right data package. So to summarize, RAIN RFID can help you transform your entire supply chain operations, reduce financial losses, eliminate branding challenges by ushering in a new level of traceability for achieving higher accuracy at optimal efficiency levels. We encourage you to learn more or reach out Barcodes to discuss how RAIN RFID can benefit you and your company. We'll open this forum for Q&A now. Thank you.
I apologize, I was muted. Thank you, Sandy. So I did see a couple questions come in. Does Impinge leverage RTLS applications also?
Yes, this is Todd speaking. So the answer is yes. Impinge is what we do is we give that digital identity to items, and then folks like Tagit, right, are software platforms where that data goes in, and so there are many different software applications that the data can flow into, whether that's a solution that really focuses in on the supply chain like Tagit, or whether that's a company that does RTLS and that's all they focus on is kind of real-time locating. Absolutely. Impinge as a company, our focus is not on the software side. Our focus is on giving that digital identity to those items, automating those processes, and then having the data flow into systems. So the simple answer is yes, our data would flow into the software systems like Tagit, software systems that all they did was RTLS, or the data goes into all sorts of applications.
And I thought I could add probably to that RTLS typically means it's a real-time location system. And everything that we are talking about is about real-time data. The real-time data is being read by readers and antennas, and we are getting the location information of a particular endpoint or a tag that is in real time. The question is now, do we want to do a mobile inventory, or do we have fixed infrastructure for doing inventory? But the whole idea is that the data is completely real time. It's not historic data. And then the question comes is that with that location information, the XY coordinate, what is that radius of that coordinate? Are we looking at a zone, which is a 10-foot radius, whether it is a 30-foot radius, whether it's a 6-inch radius? And there are some nuances for the physics of RF, but that's where we come in, and we can basically give you the business result that you require by leveraging all that data that is being generated by RAIN RFID through Impinge hardware.
Thank you, Sandy. One more question. Somebody asked, are the tags all pre-coded and locked, or can I add EPC data? And then this person also added, can I print on the tags?
Yeah, so I'll take the I'll give the first shot, and then Sandy, you fill in. So, the simple answer to your first question, which is, are tags pre-encoded? The answer can be they can either be pre-encoded, or you have the ability to encode them as you desire. And so you can buy them from a we call them a service bureau, is who provides the tags, and those tags can either have an identity on them that you pre-order, and so everything comes to you with that, or tags can be encoded by you. And if you think about it, just very, very practically speaking, if I think about it, I'm putting a tag on a pallet. That tag can be printed off of a standard printer, right, or a printer that's been RFID enabled. And yes, then you can print other aspects on that label. So if I think about a license plate that would potentially go onto a pallet, that printer could print off that license plate that has an RFID tag inside of it. It has a barcode label on it. It has other key identifying information on it. And then that specific license plate has been encoded based on your criteria for encoding it, whether that's the EPC or whether that's the license plate or whatever that data is. So many different ways to do it, and lots of flexibility to make sure that it's easy for you to get the right information on the right items.
Yeah, and just to add to it, I think the decision of whether to write on the tag or whether to, and what message or what information to encode in the tag is not a technology decision. It is a business decision. It is the decision about the cost of how much information do you want in the tag, what happens if that tag is damaged, what happens to that information, who all needs to consume that information, what information is supposed to be made available for public consumption. So there are a bunch of decisions that needs to be taken to arrive at that. And these pilot bundles that we talked about basically help you to actually get into that planning stage about what information, who writes it, at what stage do we write it, do we do source tagging, do we write those information at receiving? But that's more of a business decision based on your use cases.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, we have time for one more question. Somebody asked, is Tagit integrated with ItemSense?
So Tagit basically pulls the data from ItemSense, from other packages, from the SDKs. We basically are pulling the data from any API that is exposed to us. We're basically taking that data, and then we are not looking at the tag and the tag identity. We are looking at how that data was generated over a period of time, and to understand whether an item moved out of a room, whether an item moved out and came back, and then looking at what is the relevance of that movement for, let's say, SAP. So that's where our software is basically, so if you will, think of our software as a layer on top of all the SDKs and ItemSense and all these middleware applications, which is taking the raw data, processing it, and translating that tag information, tag data into data packages that is ready for consumption by SAP, Maximo, ServiceNow, Oracle, and those business apps, or even it could be a legacy application, homegrown legacy application. So that's where we are basically pulling the business data out of the raw tag data.
Great, thank you, Sandy. Again, I want to thank Sandy and Todd. We are out of time. If you asked a question and we didn't get to it, we will reach out to you separately. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at msandoval@barcodesinc.com, or feel free to give me a call at 312-765-8860. Thank you.